Hey everyone, I'm Selena Hill, and this is the new norm on Black Enterprise. Today, I'm speaking with Valeisha Butterfield Jones, who is a dynamic leader making the Recording Academy and the music industry at large more equitable and inclusive. Last year, she was appointed as co-president of the Academy. She is also a published author and the co-founder of the Women in Entertainment Empowerment Network, also known as WEEN, which is a nonprofit committed to the positive portrayal of women in the entertainment industry. First off, Valeisha, I want to say thank you for making space for Black Enterprise. This may be the first time Black Enterprise has landed an interview with the president of the Recording Academy, which is a win for all Black media.
I just want to say thank you to you, Selena, and to Black Enterprise. You know, I've been a friend to BE for many, many years, from the conferences to just everything that you do, and just a fan of your work as a journalist. So just thank you for having me. And it's an honor to be here serving as the co-president of the Recording Academy.
Absolutely. So Valeisha, I actually wanted to start off talking about your role. You actually took a leap from the Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer to co-president at the Recording Academy. What was it like to take that leap and to get this new role?
You know, it's interesting because I've spent over 20 years now doing DEI work at the intersections of entertainment, tech, and politics. And so when I first accepted the role as Chief Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer, it was a dream come true for me and a full circle moment, because music has really been my passion, my love, and it is actually how I started my career. And so when I entered the Recording Academy, you know, I just came to do the work, full stop. I said, you know, I'm going to work hard, I'm going to work smart to make a difference and to make an impact. And I remember the day that our CEO, Harvey Mason Jr., called me and he said, "Hey, V, you got a second?" And I said, "Absolutely." And he said, "You know, would you consider serving as our new co-president of the Recording Academy alongside Panos Panay?" And it was a quick yes. And I remember just after I got off that phone call, just being overwhelmed with excitement, but more importantly, just purpose. I felt like all of the hard work, Selena, for over 20 years had culminated in that moment. And it was nothing that I'd ever planned for, nothing that I had ever expected, but it was such a blessing, to be honest, to be seen, to be heard, and to be valued in such a senior level executive role as co-president. And so it has been an honor now to serve in this role for nearly 7 months. And I hope I'm making you all proud, because I'm working really, really hard. And I feel prepared. You know, I feel prepared. I feel ready. And, you know, I just hit the ground running from the first day.
Valeisha, so what are some of your proudest moments or achievements at the Academy since you've accepted your new role? And I think you said you've only been co-president for 7 months.
Yes, I'll say, I'll never forget the first week that I was appointed co-president. I was on a panel having a conversation with David Linton. And David Linton is the chair of the Living Legends Foundation. And he said to me, "You know, I'm really proud of you, but I just want to remind you that being the first is not an appointment, but an assignment." Right? It was just one of those moments where it just hit you right in your chest, because you realize that there's such a responsibility that we have when we disrupt spaces, when we operate as the first, if you will, in a particular role. And so from the very start, and this is kind of how I also operate as an executive, I set clear deliverables and things, OKRs, if you will, or in some companies, they call them KPIs, but clear deliverables and benchmarks and things that I would like to measure. One of those things is, in order to truly advance DEI in any organization, you have to make sure that you're providing the tools and the resources for that to happen. And so we were the first ever music award show to publish an inclusion rider. And so you saw that happen in TV and film with Ava DuVernay and many others. But for me, it was so important that for us, as the Grammy Awards, you know, the most recognized brand in music, to have tools and ways to hold ourselves accountable across all of our DEI goals. And so an inclusion rider was implemented just a few months ago. It was something that we have been working on together with Color of Change for over a year. And I'm really, really proud that we've finally launched that tool and we've implemented it for this year's Grammy Awards show. So that's one of the big things and big wins that we accomplished.
But with the inclusion writer, because I did want to spend some time on that. Thank you for bringing it up. If you can sort of explain to our audience what that means and the role that you played in the Grammys making this commitment.
So for me and my approach to DEI is really making sure that, again, not only are we holding ourselves accountable, but we're implementing tools and ways to move it to action. And so an inclusion rider is basically a document that we co-created together with Color of Change and a team of legal experts to put forward recommendations for how we plan to ensure equitable outcomes for everyone. And so that means that we're looking across race and ethnicity, we're looking across gender equity, we're also thinking about age, creators with disabilities, veteran status, and the list continues to truly ensure that we have representation in front of the camera at the Grammy Awards, but also behind the scenes. Important, I know for the Black enterprise audiences, we want to make sure that not only are we hiring Black executives and Black professionals in our space, but also procuring Black companies and Black vendors. And so vendor procurement, supplier diversity is also mission critical to the inclusion rider success. And so we're looking across all of those areas and verticals of our business to make sure that we are investing in Black talent, hiring Black talent, partnering with Black organizations, and putting our money where our mouth is. So that is very important for us. And then also being intersectional. And so we're looking at LGBTQIA plus inclusion. Again, we're thinking about gender and age and all of those areas that are intersectional to the Black community. So Black women, centering us in our strategy is also a focus. And so the inclusion rider is the means by which and the method by which we will make sure that we're measuring and tracking all of that data behind the scenes.
Absolutely. And Valeisha, I've heard you say before that transparency is something that's always been important to you in the work you're doing, and especially when you came to the Recording Academy. Can you talk about what measures have been put in place and you will be put in place so that the Academy can continue to be as transparent as possible when it comes to equity and inclusion?
Well, I think first, Selena, it's a proven fact that you can't change what you don't measure. So measurement was important, data-driven decisions and accountability was important to that. But exactly what you just said, we also knew that we had to be transparent. So we made sure that we had the most transparent voting process possible. We not only eliminated our nomination review committees this year, which was a big step for us because we wanted to respond to the feedback that we were hearing from our voters, but then also sharing the data, right? So I think what was important to us was to share the numbers, right? Share some of the progress, but more importantly, share some of the gaps and opportunities that we had ahead of us to actually close gaps to make sure that we were being more representative as an organization. And so transparency is key. It's the only way that we're going to earn trust with the community. One step forward in that direction was the formation of the Black Music Collective. And that was a body that we created and formed last year with Quincy Jones and Deborah Lee and Sylvia Roan and John Legend and Jimmy Jam and Jeff Harleston to make sure that we were not only holding ourselves accountable, but we were doing it in partnership with the community. And so the Black music community, partnered up with us. We said we were going to be more transparent than we'd ever been, and we've done that, and we're seeing major progress.
Speaking of the progress and the changes that are coming about, the Grammys this year taking place again during another pandemic. Why was it important for the Academy to move forward with an in-person an event this year? We know that it was rescheduled from January to April, moved from LA to now Las Vegas.
Well, I think it's first important to remember that when the pandemic first started, music creators in the music community and industry were one of the first to close their doors. Right. So you saw concerts coming to a screeching halt, music studios closing down, tours were discontinued, and the music community took such a hard hit. Also, you saw one of our affiliate organizations and partners, Music Cares, say we want to do something about that. And so over the course of a year, they were able to raise and distribute over $25 million to music creators in need. And so now here we are, 2 years into this pandemic. It feels like it's never going to end. And the decision to postpone in January was purely because we wanted to put health and safety first. But we also recognize that, it's time, right? So for many of us, we knew that we had to do our part to reopen our doors, but to do it responsibly. And so that's what you're going to see in Vegas, a live show with an audience, but with very, very strict COVID protocols in place and measures to ensure, again, health and safety first while putting on music's biggest night.
Absolutely. Valeisha, what other changes or anything that we can expect at this year's Grammy Award show? What can we expect?
Well, first, let me just say we are going to be publishing a women's study in March during Women's History Month, just ahead of the Grammy Awards, and it's called the Women in the Mix Study. And what you're going to be seeing in that study is a groundbreaking account and report of what the experiences of women like you and I working in the entertainment industry is. And so you're going to see, a lot of data, but more importantly, actions that we're going to be taking as an industry, as an organization, to make sure that women are safe, that we feel like we belong and do belong in these environments, but also that we have true equity and parity across the board. And so the Women in the Mix study is going to be coming out in March, just ahead of the show. So look out for that. And then the Grammys, it's just going to be a good night. You have to tune in on April 3rd. I promise you, there are going to be a lot of surprises, a lot of excitement, and also a lot of making sure that we are recognizing the contributions of music creators over the last year who, again, performed, continue to do the work, even in such difficult circumstances with the pandemic.
What are you looking forward to the most come April 3rd, music's biggest night?
So I'm a fan, right, first. And so I remember being a little girl, just with dreams to work in the music industry. And now, I'm here. And so what I look forward to most is seeing the artists who sacrifice so much, who give so much of themselves into the art, to walk the stage and to walk the red carpet and to receive their flowers. I think so often we don't see, right, so much of the hard work and grind that is put in behind the scenes to making the art that we love so much and appreciate. And so for me to be able to just play a small role in the process of making sure that artists are recognized, appreciated, and awarded for their talent is something that I look forward to most.
Absolutely. I mean, me too. I'm such a fan too. Always watch the Grammys. When I started the conversation, I thank you for not only being inclusive of women and, the LGBTQ community and just Black folks, but just Black media. Will there be open doors for Black press to also have an invitation to, cover the Grammys and be there?
Amazing question. And the answer is yes. I have been working really hard behind the scenes to ensure that Black media is not only invited, but represented and has real access at this year's show. And so you can count on that. It's something that we've been working on. It's a commitment, not only from me, but also from our CEO, Harvey Mason Jr. And it's something that together he, Panos, and I will be doing. And so the answer is yes, you can count on it. If ever you have a question in Black Enterprise, you can call me first and I'll make sure that we're always doing the right thing. And I think that's why it's so important to have representation in these spaces, right? To have someone to call, but to also have someone to hold accountable. And so, I welcome the feedback. I welcome the partnership as much as I welcome the love. And so just know that you are always invited. Always welcome, Selena, and we can't wait to see you there.
Absolutely. Valeisha, when people think of DEI, I think they think of like quotas and affirmative action, but it's so much more. It's inclusivity, like you said, when it comes to press who are telling those stories and reaching Black audiences. It's the work you're doing year round when it comes to just women and their representation in the music business. And it's also having, women like you, a business executive in the music industry who happens to be Black, right? As a Black woman. How do you really, see DEI when it comes to your role and some of the goals that you want to achieve while you're here at the Academy?
Well, I should first say that I would not be sitting here in this role were it not for Black media. And that is a fact. When I was just starting out my career, I remember so many outlets and so many publications and so many journalists and Black photographers taking an interest in me when it wasn't the popular thing to do, right? When I was, not in a corner office, when I was sitting in my cubicle, just grinding, doing the work, there were so many Black journalists who, said, I want to follow what you're doing and I want to tell that story. And so I first just want to say thank you to BE for playing a big role in telling my story, because you all have for many years. And I think for me, DEI is exactly what you just said. It's not a quota, right? It's setting real measurable goals, not only because it's the right thing to do for any business, but it's also a business imperative, right? When you prioritize DEI, when you have diverse leadership around the table from the board level across your organization, you are going to see an immediate return on that investment, real business growth as a result of that. And so for me, DEI is really showing CEOs and organizations that not only is it a business imperative, you have to prioritize it now. The next step would be if you look at your board and you do not have representation across your board, you should prioritize that over the next year. It's also looking at your supplier diversity, right? Looking at the vendors. Do you have strong representation there? And if the answer is no, you have to prioritize it. The last thing I'll say is that if any organization has not yet hired a DEI officer, I strongly suggest that you do it, and that person should report to the CEO, and you should give them a budget and make sure that they have the lane, right? And the true runway to do the work. And so what I'm most proud of is that we now see through my journey that a DEI officer can become a co-president, right? And so it's not only a win for our organization, but I think it's a win for DEI officers everywhere to know, right? This work matters, and it matters in every level and every vertical of your organization, if you have the autonomy and the trust to do it.
Oh yeah, it's also a win for just corporate America. I think for a lot of Black women, when we're in corporate spaces, we don't feel included, heard, or even when we have the position, we don't always have the agency and the trust to get it done well, right? Valeisha, looking at someone like you have climbed that corporate ladder literally at the very top. What advice would you give to other Black women who may be struggling with something like imposter syndrome, or just not feeling heard, or not feeling like they have the tools and resources that they need in order to continue to climb?
I would say three things. And I struggled with this for many years, but I think figured it out. The first is you are there for a reason. And so often we wonder why we're in the room. We wonder why maybe we have a seat at the table, and we wonder, how did I get here, right? Is it just because of DEI that I'm here? Is it just because I'm a Black woman that I'm here? The answer is you are there for a reason. So regardless of how you got there, don't waste your seat. The second is to use your voice, right? Even when it shakes. There have been many moments still that I'm, doubting myself, questioning whether, what I have to contribute in a meeting is valid or not. And I do it anyway. And so use your voice, because again, you don't want to waste your seat. You're in the room for a reason. So use your voice, trust your voice, and use it even when it shakes. And then the third thing is to lift as you climb. We have to make sure that we're not the only one in those rooms. And if we are, we have to be pulling more women, more Black women into those rooms and Black people. And so be sure that you're lifting as you climb, make sure that you're opening that door wider for the next Black woman following in your footsteps, because I can promise you that it's going to get better once you have the support and partnership and see other people that look like you in the room.
Absolutely. And Valeisha, what would you say ultimately is the goal you have at the Recording Academy? What do you want to achieve there? And also just the music industry at large?
Well, I think for me, my goal at the Recording Academy is three things. It's one, to make sure that the Grammy Awards and the Recording Academy remains the most preeminent award in music. So that's important to me, making sure that we remain relevant, we're getting it right, we're connected to culture, and we're recognizing all of the talent and all the amazing artists across the world who are contributing so much to this industry and to our community. The second is making sure that we have equitable outcomes for everyone. So that's the DEI work. I want to make sure that no community is left behind. And so anytime I see that there's not representation in the room, I try my best to be that voice and to fight for that community, because they don't yet have a seat at the table. So no community left behind. And then the third thing is to go global. It's really important to me that we're thinking about outside of US borders. So I'm looking at the continent of Africa. We're looking at different areas in the Middle East and in APAC, because we really want to make sure, right, that we have our finger on the pulse of culture. We're moving at the speed of culture, and that we're doing it globally. And so those are those three big goals for me at the Recording Academy. But I think in just my life, though, my real mission and why I was born, I believe, is to empower other women to live their best lives. And so it's really important that I enter every conversation from a woman's perspective. I'm always centering women and Black women in particular, because I am one. And that's how, of course, I enter those rooms. But more importantly, I have a responsibility now to make sure that I'm accelerating progress for people that look like you and me.
Mm-hmm. And have you always had that passion to empower women?
Since fourth grade.
For those who don't know.
Forever. It's so funny. I remember in fourth grade, funny quick story. I was, it was like girls against boys in school. It was like a silly little elementary school moment. And I held in the playground a women's empowerment meeting in fourth grade.
Oh my God.
It's a long story, but yeah, since fourth grade, I've just had this burning passion to fight for women. And not only to fight for us, but to make sure that we were living our best lives and doing it unapologetically. So yes, that's my life. And I'm just excited and honored and humbled to be able to do it in this way.
Well, sis, we appreciate the work you are doing, your life's work and mission and dedication. It has opened up so many doors. It has inspired people that you don't even know. We see everything that you're doing. We just thank you for continuing to just have that drive, that push, and, opening up so many doors for us. So thank you again, Valeisha, for your time today and everything that you're doing.
Well, I want to honor you and give you your flowers in this moment. I know I've said this to you before, but I'm so proud of you. You represent us so beautifully. I see you in front of the camera, but I also see you in those rooms when no one's watching. And you just do the work, and you do it in style and with grace and with class. So just thank you, because we're rooting for you too. And I also want to thank Black Enterprise.